Ahead on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
We'll have insight on how consumer preferences are affecting beef demand in restaurants and at retail. Plus, we'll visit Montana, where one cattle feeding family is using a new weapon in the battle against BRD.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen with host Kevin Oxner.
Hello and welcome to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Oxner. Thanks for joining us. In our news this week, the U.S. Congress returned to Washington last week after their 5-week August recess. While the debate over action in Syria has dominated the discussion in Washington, D.C., Congress has a long list of other unfinished business. And that includes a number of policy issues that could have a tremendous impact on the U.S. beef cattle industry. The big items on the to-do list for Congress include either a new farm bill or an extension of the current farm legislation, which is due to expire September 30th. In addition, Congress has been working on immigration reform, and NCBA is urging progress on immigration, especially on a guest worker program that would be workable for all sectors of U.S. agriculture. At last month's Cattle Industry Summer Conference, we asked producers to tell us what message they'd like to send to members of Congress.
I would like to see Congress get to work and solve the problems that we need to have solved, a farm bill, an immigration reform, and we are there every day working with them, and we appreciate the opportunity to work with them, but we need action.
Let's get some legislation done, let's get a farm bill passed, and they're there to serve the people, and they need to put their partisan politics behind them and get some things done that are going to help alleviate a lot of our marketing issues and free up a lot of our people to be able to operate.
If I had a chance to go and talk to Congress and tell them what I thought, I don't think that I would tell them anything. I would bring them out and show them what we do on a day-to-day basis and allow them to see how we operate, the things that we need, the government programs that benefit us, just so that they could have a hands-on experience and understand how they impact us and our industry and the food industry as a whole.
My message is I want less taxes, and if you have to do less for me, do less, but don't keep raising my taxes and trying to protect me from cradle to grave. Let us do some of our own things, and we don't need more government. We need less government and less taxes.
We need some leadership. We need some leadership in, Congress, in the Senate. We need somebody to kind of stand up and provide some vision for this country, not one election cycle to the next. They get into office, and it's really frustrating for me, because they do about 3 months of work, and then they're back into re-election mode. So I think, there's some good people back there. I know there are. I've met some of them. And so, hopefully we can get some more of those good people in there and get something done.
To join NCBA in pressing forward on key issues that impact cattlemen, become an NCBA member. Just give us a call at 1-866-USA-BEEF or visit our website at beefusa.org. One of the biggest challenges facing the beef industry every day is building and maintaining consumer demand for beef. And that job gets tougher as lower supplies drive the cost of beef higher and as consumer tastes change. So how's beef doing in the consumer marketplace? We have insight from Cattlemen to Cattlemen reporter Russell Nemitz.
Whether at home or in a restaurant, beef is still one of the top food choices for consumers.
Something like 80% of all Americans are going to have beef products sometime in the next 2-week period in their home, inside their home. It's a very large number. This is a meat-eating country. We're going to eat meat. The question is how frequently and how are we going to use that meat?
When it comes to what consumers are eating, you won't find anyone with more background and knowledge than Harry Balzer, an expert on food and diet trends who spoke at the 2013 Cattle Industry Summer Conference. The most important thing he wanted the crowd to know is that ground beef is still the most popular product in the retail beef line.
It's the number one thing that consumers like about beef is their consumption of ground beef. So I kind of hope that they see that and they think about this, and that the things that are most important to consumers is how are we providing that product in a new way to consumers, because we're always looking for novel ways of feeding ourselves.
Tastes are constantly changing, so new product development is important to help keep up with an evolving marketplace. Balzer says consumers are not just watching their dollars, they also want convenient, easy meals.
Trust me on this, all the consumers are looking for is a reason to consume it. They're not looking for a reason not to consume it. It's not that we don't want to cook, we cook a lot. We don't want to cook more. We're looking how to get out of this or how to make this process easier. And don't think of it just as a cooking process, think of it the cleanup process, the purchasing, the storage process, as well as the eating process. Any one of those, if you can make life easier or less expensive, I'll be moving toward you. In the end, you have to show me that you've made my life easier or you've made my food cost cheaper. Those will be the real drivers in how we change our habits, the time and the money, the values that you can measure.
Balzer also stresses that the beef industry should pay special attention to the millennial generation. It's a group that is passionate about what they eat and will be driving demand for years to come.
They want new things. I don't think there's ever a time when an 18 to 34-year-old young adult didn't want new things. They don't want to be like their parents. They'll end up like their parents, but they don't want to think they're going to be like their parents. So why you need to focus on them is because they're the ones making the decision about how the household is going to be living over the next 20 years. And they're a big group, so you cannot ignore them. So it's appropriate to be looking at the millennials right now.
Reporting from Denver, I'm Russell Nemitz for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Across the U.S., fall markets are the topic of conversation in auction markets and hometown coffee shops. While some areas are still feeling the impacts of long-term drought, many are looking forward to a better corn harvest this year. USDA is predicting a significant increase in corn production this year at more than 13.8 billion bushels. We've also seen increased hay production in many parts of the country. However, many questions remain about how fall markets will shape up. And that's the subject of this week's Market Watch.
Market Watch.
And joining me now to talk more about expectations for fall feed and cattle markets is CattleFax analyst Todd Klaus. Todd, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Kevin. Great to be here.
You know, last year when we were talking about this, the drought was clearly driving grain prices higher. We've seen some changes relative to moisture across the country. What does that mean in terms of both corn yields and prices as we move into the fall?
Well, you're right, Kevin. The drought has definitely had a significant impact on our grain markets in the past year. I think if you looked a year ago, we were trading more of a $7 to $8 bushel corn price on the spot futures contract, and today you're $3 lower, trading more of a $4.5 to $5.5 range. So the drought has definitely had a significant impact. I would say, you know, the improved moisture conditions. We've seen a record large corn crop that's been planted. Yields are expected to be significantly larger. The result is a record large corn crop on top of 13.8 billion bushels is expected. If you looked at the yield, I think USDA is projecting the yield to be 155 bushels per acre right now. That's still 10 bushels below the record set a few years ago, which tells me there's still some regions of the country that are dealing with the drought in terms of how that's going to impact their corn crops. But all that said, we really expect corn to kind of stay in this range. We would be surprised if corn traded much below 425 on the spot corn futures. We really see the next 6 to 9 months probably trading in a $4.5 to $5.5 range.
Very good insight. Now tell us this, turn your attention to the forage market. Clearly the moisture around the country has improved many hay crops and forage crops across the country. What do you see that doing from a pricing perspective?
Sure, Kevin. Well, I would say, you know, for this summer, the prices for hay and forages, you haven't seen as much relief as maybe you would have thought. I think it's very regional depending on how much relief you've seen from the drought. I think if you look at the eastern third of our country, they're probably in the best shape in terms of their hay and forage supplies because they've had some of the best moisture. If you look basically Texas to the west, much of those regions have seen improved conditions in terms of moisture, but they're still dealing with a lot of the effects of drought. I think you've got a lot of producers who are trying to replenish those supplies that have been depleted over the last couple of years. And I think you also looking forward, the winter time frame. We don't know for sure what kind of winter we're going to have. I think you've got a lot of producers who are going to want to keep a little more feed around them this winter. I think for those reasons, you're probably going to see hay prices stay a little elevated, at least through the winter time frame.
I talked to somebody in Nebraska who said last year he put up 140 round bales, this year 1,400. So clearly a huge difference. Absolutely. One last question for you. As you think about this fall, a lot of people are looking to market calves this fall. What can you tell us about this feeder cattle and calf market as we move into these fall months?
Sure, Kevin. Well, if you look at the calf market first, they've been pretty contra-seasonal. They actually, we've trended higher since May and June, kind of that time frame. I think if you look at a U.S. average for a 550-pound steer today, you're kind of in that low to mid 170s on the price. Seasonally from here, you would expect, the fall calf run to be a little bigger and therefore prices to be a little lower as we go through the fall. Mm-hmm. I think this year we would expect to see some weakness. That's still probably likely. But at the same time, there's several reasons why we think calf prices are probably going to stay elevated through the end of the year. Primarily because you've got a smaller calf crop. We know that's continued for several years. At the same time, you still have really strong demand for those calves from the stocker segment and the feedlots as well. And on the feeder side, a very similar trend to what we see in the calf market. Seasonally, you're in the time frame for when feeder cattle prices typically peak, and we typically would trade a little lower here into the November time frame. You've still got the same reasons for higher prices that you do on the calf side. You still have the strong demand from the stocker guys and the feedlots as well. We wouldn't see the CME feeder index probably trading much above the low 160s in here for prices, and then probably trending a little softer, but at the same time staying elevated compared to what the seasonal would tell us. Those are the main factors we see impacting the calf and feeder markets this year.
Very good. Well, clearly there's still a lot of uncertainty, but certainly a reason for some optimism for the cattle business as well. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you, Kevin.
We always appreciate the insight from our friends at Cattle Facts. Now, to find out more about current trends or view full episodes and video replays of our show, just visit our website. That's cattlemen2cattlemen.org. Ahead on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Controlling BRD is a difficult problem, as everybody knows, in the feedlot industry and the cattle industry as a whole. It's our #1 health issue.
We'll have some expert advice on controlling BRD. Plus, we'll head to Northwest Iowa to visit an award-winning family seed stock operation where father and son work together in caring for their cattle and their land. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
You're watching NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen on RFD TV.
It's time to gear up for fall with big savings on John Deere hay equipment. Get 0% financing on mower conditioners, balers, and select hay tools. And for a limited time, get up to $3,600 off a new 8 or 9 series round baler. Plus, an extra $750 in-season bonus. So don't wait. Come in today before these Gear Up for Fall savings come to an end.
You're not responsible for the weather, just the cattle. And Rangeland works as hard as you do to deliver performance, production, and profitability. Cattle need consistent nutrition. They'll get it year-round with Rangeland products from Land O'Lakes. Deliver what they need free choice in weather-resistant loose minerals and mineral and protein tubs. Get the most out of your forage. See your Land O'Lakes Co-op for products that will stand up to whatever Mother Nature throws at us. Weather's coming in. Rangeland. Consider it done.
Welcome back. Bovine respiratory disease, or BRD, is among the most costly health problems in the cattle feeding industry. Outbreaks of this disease rob producers of billions of dollars each year. The cost of managing and treating BRD in cattle is a significant concern for cattle feeders like Matt and Dan Vogel, whose family's been feeding cattle in Montana's Yellowstone Valley for more than 3 generations. The Vogels understand firsthand the importance of managing this costly disease. Cattlemen to Cattlemen reporter Matt Fleck has more.
My grandfather, he started feeding cattle back in the 1950s, was one of the first feedlots in the Yellowstone Valley to feed cattle year-round. And then over the decades, my grandpa, father, and uncle have built on at added capacity. Currently, we're about 6,500 head capacity. In the fall, we usually feed a few thousand head of yearlings, and then start getting some calves in. And then as they go out in December through February, we'll bring in more calves and feed them through the summer.
The Vogels take pride in their work, and they recognize the advantage of feeding high-quality animals. And although they source many cattle from nearby ranches, they also purchase loads of cattle from sale barns across the region.
When the cattle come in, the cattle are taken processed as soon as possible, and as we get them worked, we do buy quality cattle and make sure that the health is taken care of as soon as possible, and they're vaccinated shortly after arrival, and then the cattle are checked in the pens on a daily basis and make sure that the health stays good on the cattle. The vaccination part of the program is very important.
Prevention and rapid treatment of BRD is critical for cattle feeders like the Vogels.
Controlling BRD is a difficult problem, as everybody knows, in the feedlot industry and the cattle industry as a whole. It's our #1 health issue, and primarily because we have so many different backgrounds that cattle come from and the way they're prepared to come to a feed yard. So it takes a management strategy primarily on receiving cattle that's flexible, trying to find out as much about the cattle and their prior history so that they know whether they need to repeat vaccinations, whether they've had any vaccinations before, whether or not they've been weaned, all these kind of factors that play into their immune status.
BRD is caused by stress associated with shipping and the spread of bacterial and viral pathogens between commingled cattle. As a result, identifying the symptoms of BRD and treating outbreaks quickly are critical.
The control of BRD at the feed yard level is aimed at #1, prevention, and #2 at treatment. And so cattle especially that are evaluated as being high risk, that is, they've been hauled a long way, they've been commingled through livestock marketing channels, bad weather, just been weaned, all those kind of things put cattle at higher risk. And so those cattle very often are treated metaphylactically with usually a long-acting antibiotic like Zuprevo to help limit the amount of sickness that they're going to initially see. Following that, then it's a matter of having the management system in place with pen riders to be going through cattle often enough to be able to spot them at the first signs of respiratory disease, get those cattle pulled and treated appropriately.
Well, the signs to look for to find the BRD in your cattle. Look for, their heads down, the droopy ears, snotty noses. They'll have sometimes they'll be kind of drooly, having fluid from the lungs coming back up. When they first arrive, a lot of times you can really tell if you've got the calf standing at the back of the pen and everybody else has come up to the feed bunk. That's a real good sign. Look for cattle that are a little lethargic.
Cow-calf producers can help reduce the prevalence of BRD outbreaks by weaning and preconditioning calves prior to sale. Although the Vogels attempt to source cattle of known origin, it's not always possible. Dan Vogel knows from experience that certain classes of cattle come with animal health risks.
You take ranch calves that come in walking and bawling that have not been pre-vaccinated, we'll treat right around 15 to 20% of those cattle. You take yard cattle that come in that have been exposed to everything, those cattle, you're going to treat anywhere from 15 to 30% of those cattle. Is just numbers that have come around with years and years of experience.
We'll have more from Montana when we return. Stay with us.
Its arrival is as routine as the truck that brings the next load of calves. You stand ready, waiting, watching for symptoms. A revolutionary new weapon in hand, unique chemistry and hard-hitting active ingredient. Longer duration in the respiratory tract, rapid absorption. Join the Zuprevolution. Zuprevo, Tilda Pearson. See your veterinarian.
New Holland is smart for the way you farm. And New Holland round balers are smart for the way you raise cattle. By focusing on making the densest bale possible, New Holland round balers pack more into each bale, saving you time, fuel, and money. Now that's smart. We can also match your feeding requirements with a variety of bale slicing, cutting, and wrapping options to help maximize your time. Plus, with models designed specifically for silage or specialty crop harvest, New Holland gives you the power to make smart choices to fit your farm or ranch. You work hard to get the most out of every hay season to benefit you and your cattle. From mower conditioners to balers and tractors, New Holland has the right solutions to help you make quality hay and forage for your cattle operation. Visit your New Holland dealer to learn more about the complete lineup of New Holland equipment, in addition to all the benefits available to cattle producers.
Welcome back. Let's return to Montana and reporter Matt Fleck with more about the Vogel family and their effort to fight BRD.
Because the health status of calves isn't always known, cattle feeders need an effective treatment option for dealing with BRD outbreaks. Zuprevo tildoporosin, a product from Merck Animal Health, is the newest macrolide available for the treatment and control of BRD. Zuprevo can also be used to treat cattle upon arrival to help prevent outbreaks before they occur.
Bactericidal and bacteriostatic are properties of antibiotics that relate to how quickly they kill bacteria. Bacteriostatic means that it slows the growth, and so the animal has a chance to get on top of the infection that way. Bactericidal means that it actually kills the bacteria, and so Zuprevo has both of those properties and just adds to its effectiveness really in being a fast-acting antibiotic and helping get the cattle back on their feet more quickly.
Zuprevo is an antibiotic for rapid and sustained control of BRD. This rapid control helps to get cattle back on feed faster. Those characteristics have made Zuprevo a top choice of cattle feeders.
When we find our BRD cattle, we'll treat them with the Zuprevo, and we send them anymore. I've been sending them right back to their home pen. And first did that this winter. We sent them home, and the next day we'd ride back through, and those cattle, they'd be up at the bunk eating, where the day before they were at the bottom end of the pen, and you could just see a vast improvement in them and seemed to do real well.
Fast identification and treatment is a key to effectively limiting the impact of BRD. After sick cattle are identified and pulled for treatment, Zuprevo goes to work quickly, limiting the spread of pathogens and the damage they can cause.
The important properties of an antibiotic in treating respiratory disease are how quickly they're absorbed, how soon they reach the critical levels where they'll stop bacterial growth, and then how long a duration that they're active for. And so this is a good example where Zuprevo really has a unique spot in the market in that it has all of those properties. Very quickly absorbed, reaches effective levels in the lung within an hour to 4 hours, and so it really stands alone in that regard.
The ease of use is another important consideration when selecting a product for BRD treatment. Zuprevo, with its simple-to-follow dosing calculation and easy syringeability in nearly all weather conditions, helps producers ensure they're dosing animals properly. This translates into lower costs, reduced labor, and ultimately increased profitability.
Dosing compliance with antibiotics is critical because if we're say estimating the body weight of cattle, or we're rounding up the dose volume that's required, then we're tending to either underdose or overdose. Underdosing, of course, is going to give us a lower efficacy, a lower success rate in treatment. Overdosing is expensive, and so we don't want to be on either side of that. So the more accurate we can be in that dosing level, the the better it is for animal and owners.
Suprevo has been well received by animal health professionals across the country. The ease of use and bactericidal action of Suprevo make it a top choice among feedlot managers.
Suprevo's been really exciting out in the field. The producers that I've talked to that have used it, both from a treatment perspective as well as a metaphylactis perspective, have actually been very positive. From a treatment perspective, they're actually seeing quicker responses. And then from a metaphylactis perspective, we're actually seeing the product work in a more consistent and a longer time frame, so they're having a lot less repulls out in the feed yard.
Because cattle treated with Suprevo are spending less time in the sick pen suffering from BRD and more time at the feed bunk, they're helping producers' bottom line. Suprevo is just one of many animal health solutions offered by Merck Animal Health. Those solutions also extend to technical expertise and a variety of easily accessible resources.
You know, we ride through the cattle every day looking for the respiratories, and when we pull, our first line of defense now is we use the Suprevo.
Reporting from Vogel Feeders in Ballantine, Montana, I'm Matt Fleck for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
For more information on Suprevo and other available products from Merck Animal Health, visit usa.suprevo.com, or you can visit our website at cattlementocattlemen.org. We'll have more right after this.
Tough trailers built for tough country. Big Ben Trailers manufactures a different kind of trailer, one that's built to put up with the rough conditions found on the ranch. Rugged build using heavy gauge powder coated steel and a 2x4 rectangle tube frame. There's a 1-inch gap between the side and floor, so there's no place for water or manure to accumulate and rust. Big Ben trailers are loaded with standard features: a lever action hitch, a 3-foot escape gate and a middle sorting gate, rhino lining along the front edges, and a receiver hitch to tow another trailer, chute, or other equipment. Tough and practical. That's Big Ben Trailers, designed and built by a working cattleman. You can rely on and trust Big Ben Trailers for their durability and convenient features. Reasonably priced for any rancher to afford. For a list of dealers and other design features, visit BigBenTrailers.com. Big Ben Trailers, built cattlemen tough.
This week, we continue our series of reports profiling the 2013 regional winners of the Environmental Stewardship Award. And with every one of these operations we visit, there's a common theme: the goal of leaving the land better than they found it. This week, we head to Region 3 to meet the winning family from the Hawkeye State of Iowa.
The Wood family, Greg and Lola, as well as their son Chris, have raised cattle in 8 different states. But the Woods have always felt a special attachment to their home state of Iowa, so they moved back in 1996 to start Bittersweet Acres, a purebred Angus seed stock and commercial hay operation.
Both Lola and I grew up here, been married for 43 years, and this is where we started and we came back.
Growing up all over the country, we've run into a lot of different practices of taking care of the ground. I enjoy walking out and seeing healthy cows, healthy ground, healthy environment.
Bittersweet Acres is a rare sight in the rolling hills of the Hawkeye State. That's because the Woods made the decision to continue as a forage-based operation, despite increasing pressure to convert to row crops.
We enjoy raising forage. I guess it's just been something that over the years it's a challenge to us to get a little bit more out of that. And it's just been a natural fit because with the way this row crop deal's gotten, it's pretty competitive in this part of the world, and we just decided to pick a little niche instead.
The Wood family works hard to maintain the land and the cattle. They've implemented a grazing plan that provides an optimal balance of grass condition and carrying capacity, while still meeting the herd's nutritional requirements. As a result, weaning weights have increased by 10 to 15% and carrying capacity by 25%.
The great thing about the rotational grazing deal is these cows always have some fresh forage. We've been able to steadily increase our weaning weights, and that's without using any creep feed. It's just with forage management.
We raise cattle, but you have to raise grass first to raise these cattle so they can perform for you. The quality of the grass on these pastures has substantially increased just by looking at it, because these hillsides 10, 15 years ago weren't growing what we have now.
The Wood family worked with NRCS to install a solar-powered continual flow pump. This ensures the cattle have a dependable water source year-round and keeps the cattle away from the creek to prevent erosion.
We have a solar project we put in with the assistance of an EQIP program that's been in our pasture system for going on 15, 16 years. It's different from everybody else's. It's not a stock tank filled. It runs continuously. I'd say our rotational grazing combined with our water system, the fresh water makes a big difference.
It's just been a super savings. It saves us on our, versus just having them drink all rural water, it would save us over $200 a month on water savings cost versus using rural water.
So it's just really great to see Bittersweet being able to make a profitable operation and maintain the resource that we have here. They've been just an excellent role model over the years. They've got a long-term commitment to the beef industry and just done an excellent job on their own operation here.
The gates at Bittersweet Acres are always open to people that want to learn more about stewardship, including other cattle producers who want to improve their conservation practices. The name Bittersweet comes from the family's belief that they've been able to make it through both the good times and the bad, but they admit working with family has brought them nothing but joy.
I'd say from a father-son relationship, it's been wonderful. It's a partnership. It's just a great deal to do from a family standpoint. We can do a lot of things together and plan on continuing doing it that way.
You know, I moved home a year after my folks did. Family's everything to move home for. I work with my dad every day. Yeah, family's why I came home.
The Wood family knows the stewardship practices they implement today will ensure Bittersweet Acres is around for many generations to come.
I think without a doubt that's probably one of the biggest things that we're doing, is to have this to be sustainable for Chris to have it and future generations to go on with it and continue to be a profitable, workable deal. And we're not the biggest deal in the world, but we try to do it right. We want to make it better than when we got it.
You know, most people would say, oh, we want to grow, we want to get bigger. No, I want to get better. Better genetics, better taking care of the ground. I believe in quality over quantity.
Now, if you'd like to find out more about the Environmental Stewardship Award, see photos and videos, or learn how to apply for the award, visit the website environmentalstewardship.org. We'll be right back.
Join producers from around the country at the 2014 Cattle Industry Annual Convention and NCBA Trade Show in Nashville, Tennessee.
It's an event that we will never miss.
I love seeing the enthusiasm. I think it's great.
It's a perfect combination and the perfect time to hold the NCBA convention.
Join your fellow cattlemen for the latest cattle industry news, education, networking, and fun. Plus, at the NCBA Trade Show, get the latest in industry technology for the cattle business.
This trade show is one of the best trade shows that is out there. It's amazing the amount of industry and businesses that come here to be a part, and And there's no other place that, for those of us as beef producers, can go to have this much information in one place.
So follow me to Tennessee for the 2014 Cattle Industry Annual Convention and NCBA Trade Show in Nashville, February 4th through the 7th. Learn more at beefusa.org.
Welcome back. Success in producing and raising healthy, profitable beef cattle often hinges on the control of internal parasites that steal profits and negatively impact animal health. To learn just how producers can fight this ever-present yet unseen parasite threat, we caught up with our friends at Merck Animal Health to talk about optimal parasite control strategies for cattle producers. Cattlemen and Cattlemen reporter Brian Baxter has the story.
When it comes to battling internal parasites, having the best product isn't enough. Timing your deworming treatment to combat the life cycle of the parasites on pasture is key.
It's so important because parasites affect every aspect of the cattle production, okay? And they're in every production cycle, whether it's cow-calf, stocker, or feedlot. If we look at the three things that parasites do, they affect decrease feed intake, decrease average daily gain, and alter the immune system. All three of those can affect the productivity of that calf to the tune of about $190 over his lifetime.
Experts say only 1 to 5% of parasites are actually in the cow herd. Most are in the form of eggs and larvae on the pasture. So cattlemen need to think strategically to reduce the parasite population and prevent losses.
When we have a strategic deworming program, what we're trying to accomplish is a relatively parasite-safe pasture year-round, okay? The benefits from that, there again, come in the form of increased conception rates, increased weaning weights, decreased health problems. The way we do this is attack the worms when the pasture is growing at its best. When the pasture is at its best, the worms are at their best. And so if we deworm at strategic times, then we can have the most impact on our pastures and decrease the number of eggs and larvae on the pasture.
Timing and method of application are just part of the deworming equation. What producers really need to know is if their product is working by checking the effectiveness of their dewormer.
It behooves us all to check and see what we're doing is actually working. And several years ago, worked with parasitologists to develop a standardized fecal egg count reduction test. And what that does is look at the efficacy of the deworming. So a producer can go out, deworm his cattle, take some fecal samples. 14 days later, we take more fecal samples, and if we get a 90% reduction or better in that egg count, then we know he's had a successful deworming. If it's less than 90%, then we need to go back and look at some things. Did he use the product correctly? Was it dosed correctly? You know, if all those can be answered yes, then we need to look at, is there a resistance problem?
All cattle can be a host of internal parasites. A whole herd deworming program shows benefits to both cows and calves.
All animals, if you're in a cow-calf situation, should be dewormed. While the adult cow will develop some immunity to these parasites, she still sheds a tremendous number of eggs and is a huge source of infection for our calf. Parasites in the young animal are much more detrimental than they are in the older animal, so it's vitally important to keep those controlled in the young for their production.
Brent Parkman, manager of Parkman Cattle Company south of Montgomery, Alabama, knows firsthand how important good parasite control can be.
We've been in business for 35 years. My dad started the company back in the 70s. We're a order buying backgrounder operation. We cover most, if not all, the markets in the Southeast. We also are in the stocker business. We turn out stocker cattle throughout the Southeast and Midwest, from peanut farmers in South Georgia to wheat farmers in Oklahoma and Kansas. In the Southeast, where we get a tremendous amount of rainfall, our cattle come in mineral deprived and loaded with parasites. We are looking to maximize cattle performance, reduction of fecal egg counts, and just doing all that we can do to help the animal perform in the environment that it's going to be in, whether it's in the feed yard or whether it's on pasture.
And we'll have more from Alabama right after this.
At Merck Animal Health, we are dedicated to improving the health and well-being of animals through innovative science-based solutions, products, treatments, and services to ensure a dependable, affordable food supply. From cattleman to consumer, from farm to family, we're with you every step of the way. We work where you work. What drives you drives us. It's your livelihood and our responsibility.
I'm an NCBA member.
I'm an NCBA member because I think as an advocacy group, NCBA has done some great things for our industry, and I kind of feel compelled to give back some of what they've done for us.
Because this organization is looking out for cattle producers.
They understand what makes our cow-calf business profitable.
Join me today.
Join me today.
Join NCBA today. Head to beefusa.org or call 866-USA-BEEF.
Welcome back. Let's return to Alabama and reporter Brian Baxter with more on the value of parasite control.
Parkman Cattle Company is a diversified, family-run operation where the emphasis is on family.
It's a family environment. I work along my mother, my father, my brother, my nephews, my nieces, and my children are getting of the age now where they're getting out here, and it just makes me feel good to see an 8-year-old boy penning 200 head of cattle.
When it comes to selecting a deworming program, beef producers are looking for one thing.
Weight gain. Producers are selling pounds. We're using Safeguard to clean the cattle out, to get them clean in order for those cattle to maximize their efficiency on feed or grass when they leave here.
Timing of cattle deworming is important, but not always convenient. So Merck Animal Health offers several non-handling forms of dewormer to allow producers to deworm at the most optimal time for maximum benefit.
Well, the neat thing about with Safeguard, they can actually deworm without having to handle the cattle. You know, research shows that it can cost up to $5 a head to handle those cattle. With Safeguard, with our non-handling forms, you don't actually have to gather the cattle. We have several feed-through products that are just as efficacious as the drench or the paste.
Parkman Cattle Company has incorporated Safeguard non-handling forms of dewormer into various aspects of their operation.
We use Safeguard mineral on hard-to-reach cattle that we don't want to put our hands on and have to go through the stress and the weight loss on those cattle. We'll just pull their mineral and apply the Safeguard mineral to that. We use Safeguard range cubes to deworm our brood cows during times of the year where we don't have to get up and put our hands on those cattle. When the grass is at its best, we want our cattle to be at their best. We want the cattle as clean as possible, and using Safeguard non-handling forms such as mineral or range cubes in order to deworm those cattle will get those cattle at their level that they need to be to maximize their potential.
Recently, Parkman Cattle Company has also started using Safeguard Drench and an injectable dewormer on incoming stocker calves.
At initial processing, when we receive the cattle in, the cattle will be vaccinated and fully processed. Bulls will be castrated. Deworming, we use Safeguard Drench along with an injectable dewormer to get the cattle cleaned out. Cattle just perform better. They're cleaner. After day 30 coming out of the preconditioning pen, they're ready to go to work as far as going on grass programs or into the feedlots.
And there is good science behind using a combination deworming approach.
Well, basically the science behind it is this. When you put an ivermectin together with Safeguard, you're playing to the strengths of both products. Also, there's been some modeling done where we've looked at parasite resistance, and by using the combination, it would appear that we may be able to slow the development of resistance for several years.
A good parasite control program provides the foundation to nearly all other health and production management practices. Dr. Newcomb sums up an optimal deworming approach.
With internal parasites, we should make sure that the producers are deworming these animals at the most optimal time, employing strategic deworming. And then what they need to be doing is actually checking behind these wormings to make sure that they were efficacious.
For Brent and his family, getting each animal to perform to their full potential is the ultimate goal.
Since we've been using Safeguard, we've seen a increase in feed intake, better performance, and that's maximizing our opportunities in the livestock business, because that's what we're about, is selling pounds of beef.
In Montgomery, Alabama, I'm Brian Baxter reporting for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
A USDA cow-calf survey found that fewer than 5% of producers check the effectiveness of their deworming program. To learn more about Safeguard and other Merck Animal Health products, visit mercanimalhealthusa.com or log on to our website at cattlementocattlemen.org. We'll have more right after this.
Hi there, I'm Joey.
And I'm Rory, and welcome to our farm outside Nashville, Tennessee. When we go to work, whether it's on tour or here at home, we wear the West.
That's right. Where it's that perfect snap shirt or that perfect pair of boots. When you wear Roper, you wear the West.
Learn more about us, Joey and Rory, and about Roper Western Wear at eroper.com.
Telling the truth and being real and feeding my family a home-cooked meal. That's important to me. That's important to me. And planting the garden and watching it grow.
Let's face it, you don't think a lot about your trailer hitch. You use it and forget it. We understand. But at B&W, we think about it. Short nights, long hauls, never-ending chores. The unthinkable. We think about it all, so you don't have to. B&W. Trusted.
So what do you care if your cattle are source and age verified? Better yet, do you think the housewife cares? Well, 70% of consumers surveyed want to know where their food comes from. So where do you start? With this little green ear tag. IMI Global is the seal of approval that stands behind the beef you produced. IMI is engaged in source and age verification from the cowman to the kitchen table. So if you're ready to start, just ask us. IMIGlobal.com. Sherry, a ranch woman, said that her son had been a dutiful ranch kid, but he had other plans for the future. By 25, he was an officer of a bank, and he was on a career track to be rich and cautious someday. Despite her encouragement to find a nice woman, he just never had the time. And then one day, Mom came up with a great idea. She contacted eHarmony.com. Well, I asked her if she'd consulted her son. Why? She asked. I knew everything he'd say. Our conversation stimulated me to apply to eHarmonyGrits.com. For a cowboy friend of mine, I had bought many a beer listening to his whining and griping about women, so I called on his behalf.
Do you prefer a woman that is tall or short?
Well, it depends on whether she's shining my boots or sitting in front of me in a theater.
Do you consider yourself an Epicurean?
No, I'm mostly a Methodist, I think.
When was the last time you had a tryst with a woman?
Well, I'm not sure. I was in Heber City a while back, and this gal made me some scones.
Would you decline dating a woman with prison tattoos?
Well, not if my name was spelt right.
Do aggressive women turn you off?
Well, it depends on whether she's carrying a concealed weapon.
Do you like horses?
Well, sure I do, but I'm trying to get a girl this time.
What do you consider your strongest feature?
Some have said I have beady eyes. Others, a long nose, a pot belly, and body odor. So I guess I'd have to say body odor. Back to Sherry trying to match up her son. She carried on email conversations with many female applicants without his knowledge, and finally found the perfect mate for him all through the email. They're now married. The new bride said she was taken in by his uncanny insight into women's minds. I would say she certainly was taken in, that is. This is Baxter Black from Out There.
Thanks, Baxter. If you haven't marked your calendar yet to spend some time in Nashville this February, now's your chance. The 2014 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show promises to be a can't-miss event.
The trade show that we're getting ready to have in Nashville, I think, will be a super deal. Probably the biggest that we've ever had. And I invite all the producers to come on up into Nashville this coming year.
I enjoy going to Nashville. Obviously, they have the music there. And we have some great events there, and that is the last time we were there, we had a fabulous time. I think people just had a wonderful time at Nashville. We're delighted to be able to go back, and I'm sure it encourage people to come and join us there.
The Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show is set for next February 4th through the 7th in Nashville. Find out more at beefusa.org. Next week on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll see how one operation protects calves from BRD. I'll introduce you to another Environmental Stewardship Award winner. Plus, we'll have more cattle industry news and, of course, another visit with our friend Baxter Black. Well, that's our time for this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you right back here next week on RFD TV.